Hello and welcome. It's Simon Zutshi here, and this is another one of our 100K Club interviews. And I'm really delighted to have Luke Spikes with me today. So welcome, Luke.
Simon, I'm absolutely delighted to be here, locked down as I am. Who better to be speaking to?
Fantastic. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know you've got a huge amount of knowledge to share with people who are watching this. So thank you for agreeing to do that. So just first of all, Luke, just so people get to know a little bit about you, can you tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and what did you do before you got into property?
Well, one of the things I do talk about when I'm asked is I'm not one of those 30-year dyed-in-the-wool property people, and I think that's quite helpful for a whole host of reasons, but mostly because it actually encourages you to think a little bit differently because you've got no preconceived way of thinking. Come to the world of property investing with 30-odd years, 33 years of business experience, having built international businesses from the ground up. So I know how to take an idea, turn it into a product, convince people to give me money for a product, and then make that product profitable.
Yeah,
they're all technology businesses, though. So I come from a high-tech, high-speed world into the world of property, which I now know is low-tech and at times excruciatingly slow. Yeah.
But I guess there are lots of, I think we have a lot of successful business people who come and do property because I think there are a lot of transferable skills that you have from the business world that you can bring into property, and vice versa. A lot of things people learn in property they can actually use in their businesses as well.
No, that's absolutely unquestionably the case. And I think that's one of the things that meant I was perhaps had a slight advantage over some of those folk with whom I shared my year-long Mastermind program, was that I came at it. It was sort of instinctively thinking about customers. What do customers want? What do customers need? How does my product or service need to meet that need? How do I make what I'm doing different so I can sustain higher profits and higher cash flow? So just almost instinctive things that you bring to the table because you've done it before. And at the end of the day, a product is a product, something that someone buys. Yeah. So in that sense, yes, absolutely, lots of transferable skills.
Now with you though, isn't it? Because it's as entrepreneurs, I consider myself an entrepreneur. We're a problem solver. We see what's the problem in the market and how can we come up with a solution to solve that problem, and then we get rewarded for doing that, right?
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough also to be asked to go and speak on the PIN circuit, which I'm delighted to do and have a lot of fun so doing. But actually, my whole starting point is very simply, you need to think about the problem you're solving and the customer you're serving. That's the start. So a lot of people say, well, what's your strategy? What they mean is it rent to rent? Is it HMOs? Is it service accommodation, hotels, whatever? And I said, no. My strategy is to focus on the problem I'm seeking to solve and the customer I'm seeking to serve first. Start there and you set yourself up for success.
I think also that's a very important distinction for me, to use the word customer. Very often landlords see their tenants as a real hassle and as a pain, and they can be like that. But what I think we need to remember as landlords is that person is a customer who's coming back and buying from your property business every single month, as long as they decide to stay in that property. So we have to look after that customer, and the better we look after them, the more likely they're going to want to stay with us.
No question about it. And I think, unfortunately, so in the world of Higgy, in Team Higgy land, the term tenant is banned. The reason those terms are banned is because for tenant versus landlord, it doesn't set up what I consider to be the right relationship between ultimately the person who pays you the money for the service you provide and therefore is responsible for the wealth you create. Yeah. And somehow landlord and tenant, one up here, one down there, and I think that's just fundamentally wrong. So what we're seeking to do is not just create lovely, aesthetically attractive product. We're also trying to fundamentally re-engineer the nature of the relationship that a landlord has with a tenant, so it's no longer landlord and tenant. And we're having some success, and that's why that's why ultimately our voids are near 0%, for example, why our rents are 50% higher than market average. I mean, these are all things that contribute to superior financial performance.
Well, we'll come to that later on, because I think that's a key success factor that enables our really successful members of the 100K Club to actually do what they do, because they've got high quality products that people are prepared to pay for. So two different areas, two different strategies, but all under one brand, which is this quality, high class living. So it's a great way to do it. And can you share with us what were your overall results that you achieved in your first year whilst on Mastermind?
So when we're on Mastermind, bear in mind that I had, I came at this as simply as someone who had owned their own home. I was not an investor. I didn't have any property at all. So there were many who had some who had none, like me. But most had some experience. I had no experience other than just I owned my own home. So in 11 months, we managed to manage, control, or own £4.2 million worth of property in the 11 months. That at that time were estimated to produce an income of 182,000 for us. 42 rooms, 8 apartments.
£182,000 of profit.
Right. Oh yeah,
net profit after the mortgages and bills, etc. So let's just think about that for a minute, Luke. I mean, we have a target of £50,000 in the first year, which about 15 to 20% of people do. And not everyone does that. And most people actually do more in the second year than they do in the first year, because sometimes it takes a bit of time to get going. Yeah. But you're someone who has started from scratch with no knowledge, and yes, years of business experience, which you've obviously applied and used those transferable skills. And in a very short amount of time, you've built up a significant portfolio and a phenomenal income in 11 months. How did you, I know you worked really hard, and I want to make it really clear, guys, investing in property is not something easy. You definitely put the effort in. You built a team around you. But that's an incredible result. How do you feel about that, Luke?
Well, very positive. I mean, actually now we're nudging $250,000 on our way to 200,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's our goal. So for me, it's lovely to hear you say that, and I genuinely appreciate that. But I think I've only just started. We're nowhere near the objective we set for ourselves.
Yeah, you must do better, Luke. You're really slacking at the moment.
No, right. But that's how I think. Because my goal is 2.4 million a year in net cash flow, and we're a long way from that.
So, you mentioned a few deals already. Can you talk about what would you think is your best deal you've done so far?
My best deal actually is not co-living, and it's not something I intended to retain, but in the end did. Is a development. And how this came about was I purchased the freehold of a building in Bristol that had retail in it. So I had no commercial buildings built before. No retail experience at all, didn't want retail, but someone knew me, who I knew, who was running a deli business, and they were offered the freehold to the building. They didn't know how to do it. They didn't have the money. He called me and I said, well, that's very interesting. Let's take a look. So I ended up purchasing the freehold of this building for $350,000. But before I purchased it, I agreed with the incumbent owner of the lease that I would sell the retail for him to $270,000.
Right.
Okay. So that was already agreed before I even bought the building. So at $350,000. I then used the rent I was receiving from him whilst we did the work to pay the bridge finance. So I had a net cost of financing that was effectively zero.
Right.
Having then set the deal up, used bridge to set it up, we took the top 2 stories and converted them into apartments. And it cost us $133,000 to convert those 2 stories into 2 apartments, which then were valued at $400,000. So in the end, we were able to buy the building, give the individual who wanted to retain the lease the opportunity to lease, convert the flats, make over £100,000 notional profit on the flats, but we retain them. And now those are generating £1,000 a month net cash flow as single lets. Have any money in the first place? So it was financed by private money and bridging finance. But to make it even richer, I knew that this particular individual had a warehouse in Bedminster in Bristol, and it was empty and costing him money on the rates he was paying, because he had multiple buildings, so he had no exemption from rates. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, hang on a minute. I need a warehouse because I need it for storing goods between refurbishments and that sort of stuff, linens. And so here's the deal. We'll package this whole deal up. If you give me the warehouse rent-free for 10 years, I will immediately assume responsibility for the outgoings, but knowing full well that I was exempt from paying rates, so I was effectively getting it for free, but he was saving the rates.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, okay, so that's the deal I did. So not only did I get all that stuff out of the deal, I also got a warehouse rent-free for 10 years.
And that's a great example of looking at someone's problem. His problem is he's got this warehouse, it's empty, he has to pay the rates because he can't use the exemption. And just by coming in and taking that liability away from him, so although we weren't paying him any income, you were saving him money that he wasn't have to pay out. And you could use your exemptions. That, again, that's a real win-win just by thinking creatively. Brilliant. So what are some of the tips you would give to someone, even if they're completely new as you were, or if someone's a more experienced investor and they want to step up their game to what you do? What are some of the tips you'd suggest people?
Well, so everyone who watches this video is now going to go, this is a setup and Simon's obviously paid Luke some money. But my first is get educated. First. Second, think like a business person. Do not think like a property person. Don't behave like a property person behaves. Think like a business person. Focus on the customer first and foremost, and design your business around satisfying that customer's need. That's the second thing. And then the third is build a brand. Attract to you the things you need to have attracted to you in order to execute whatever plan you've decided you want. Simple. Now, I know it's simple to say, hard to do, and it's not everyone's bag, but those are the three things I think I would happily give as tips.
People have got, on this series, got different kind of hints and tips, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to will definitely resonate with. And the final thing that is a bit of a plug for Mastermind, a shameless plug, is how has this experience changed your life for you and for your family?
Well, first off, I didn't know I was going to do it. And in fact, I promised my darling wife after 33 years of her suffering, because it is being married to an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur who keeps starting businesses is a tough gig for everyone involved, including family and kids and all that sort of good stuff. So she said, never again. And then 2 weeks later, and not only am I actually doing it, I'm excited by it. I've created a business and I've roped her in to help me, which she really didn't want to do. But as we thought about it, we decided that this was a vehicle that we could use to create a legacy for future generations of our family, so that there could be income regardless of their future generations' own status as far as income is concerned. They could come to this place to draw money to educate their children, to purchase a property, or to fund a business. And so what we're doing is not creating something for Delith and I, we're creating something for our children and their children's children and future children.
I love that structure. It's not just here's some money, there's very specific things you can use that money for. Well,
I don't want them, excuse me saying, but peeing it up the wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not allowed.
Which unfortunately often happens. You get one generation make it, very often the next generation lose it, right?
Correct. So there's an element of thinking about that. So in that sense, we feel that this is the vehicle that will accomplish that for us. We've still got a long way to go. The other thing that we decided that we would do is if we can get this to the lofty objectives I've set for ourselves, what that actually does is doesn't create for us an income, that means we can live, like lords. That's not what it's about. It's about the more we make, the more we can give away. So Delith and I decided that one of the things we want to do is to help those in a position less fortunate than ourselves. And a great way to do that is make money so you can give money to those who don't have it.
Absolutely.
And so when people ask me, why 200,000 a month? Your wife must be extraordinarily expensive to run. No, it's quite simple. The more we make, the more we can give away. So, in terms of life changing, it, I think, has helped accomplish things that we always knew at the back of our minds we would like to do, but never managed to make real. And so now we're making those things I've just talked about real. And so in that sense, yes, absolutely changed my life. The other thing is that higgihaus has become a thing. It really has. As a brand, it's very strong. People know it. They know the aesthetic. They know the name. They have a feeling about it. More often than not, it's positive. I hadn't honestly anticipated that I would be able to take a completely brand new industry, do what I do, and end up with a brand that is extraordinarily prominent in an industry of which I've never played before. So I think that's a moment for me, I suppose, in terms of life changing or being a little proud of what, if you allow yourself occasionally to pat yourself on the
I
back.
think you should be very proud of what you've done, Luke, and I think you're a real inspiration to many people. I mean, anyone watching this is going to pick up some really good golden nuggets about how they can move forward in their property journey. That's what this interview series is all about. So I'd just like to thank you once again, Luke, for your time today, but also for putting your confidence in the program and the mastermind and trusting the process and just doing so phenomenally well on it and inspiring so many people. So thank you, Luke. And I always look at what you're doing with great sense of satisfaction as well. And I just wish you all the best. And here's to the future of Higgy House.
Well, thank you very much. And joy, and no question of a doubt, I will continue to contribute to those who got me started in this game. So thank you to you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Luke. All the best.
Goodbye.